And we're back.
Yes, we're back because it's the end of the week, and you know what that means?
That means TLF and
TLF. Till Fridays. Is that what it's called, or is it the Loving Flame?
The living fart.
Now, today we're taking a look back. Well, we're going a little bit back to what we used to do because there's been a
doing a meta-analysis.
Meta on Raider.io.
Yeah. We're looking at basically the top, basically keys cleared by ranged DPS. So just a little bit of a disclaimer. What you're probably going to be seeing in the lower tiers are specs that can clear 24s and up. Yeah. So this is basically I'm saying basically, but it's fine. You get it. Basically, you get it. It's a look at how the specs are performing at the very high level. Because pretty much all of them can do 24s and up, that means that anything can do anything below. So don't worry about that. This is just to see how they perform when they're in the hands of like the best exquisite players.
Yes, the best of the best, the creme de la creme. So plus 24 and upwards, and all data is from Raider.io. Okay. Now, if you're gonna see specs that are going to be 1 in S and 1 in D, that doesn't mean absolute shit for you and me, because we can play with all these specs and clear 15s and 16s and 17s, no problemo. And that being said, you need to learn how to play, and one of the best ways to do that is with
the Warcraft Logs desktop app. Oh my god, I've been using this for the last couple of months.
Oh yeah, it's really cool.
It's really good. Listen, this is a really good tool for you to use to improve, because there's a lot of things that you can check on the fly as you are in the desktop, and it has features that the website does not have. Like when you're applying to a group, you can actually see the people. Or when you're creating a group, you can see the people applying to the group and look at their profile and see, you know, what progress,
their scores.
Did they clear these bosses? Did they do these dungeon keys as well? And you can use all of this to also look at where you're standing within your realm. You can look at how your guild is progressing through all of this. It's a really cool app. It has features that the website doesn't have. It lets you improve. It's so easy to use. I cannot stress this enough. I'm so done with the desktop application. I can just do it all from within the game. It has a really neat little icon that you can move around. You can also go through the menu and activate like frame rate shows and stuff like that. It's really cool. Highly recommend you guys check it out.
Yeah, and thank you Warcraft Logs for sponsoring this video and making all of this happen. And now it's time for the showdown. Let's kick it off with Affliction Warlock, which I do believe Shelly represents over there pretty good, I would say. Despro too, but in terms of like Affliction, is it the best? Is it the best? I think it's the best.
Affliction is currently the best performing Warlock spec right now.
That's what I was referring to.
But not by too much, actually. It's kind of like, okay, well, when we're looking at like the creme de la creme, it's kind of like middle of the pack in terms of keys, and that just means like 27s, and that's I mean, just come on, just man, 27s. It's
small 27s. That's fine.
That's more than people's ages.
But the thing is, man, I think Affliction really got bumped up like in comparison to last season because of like all the bufferinos.
Oh yeah, and definitely the Seed of Corruption helped.
The Seed of Corruption, yeah, that's what we're going to say, because that shit is ridiculous right now, and we were kind of like predicting this, not to this extent, but seeing Affliction constantly be up there. I mean, any team having an Affliction Warlock will be decimating packs just because of Seed of Corruption. And the single target isn't too bad either.
Yeah, I think it got a little bit of a bump from last year's placement, and currently it's in the B tier right now. B tier, like I said, B tier is about like 27s. There are 27s, you know, by the top Afflictions. There are obviously Afflictions who clear 26s and stuff like that. Yeah. But Affliction does have the potential to go pretty much really high up there.
No, it's definitely worth the place. Again, huge respect for the spec, because it's not the easiest to pull off. Granted, it's not as complicated as it was in the past, but again, another example of a spec where you learn to play it, you master it, you get the results. So plus 27s, 28s, maybe, who knows. Now let's move along to Arcane Mage. You remember we talked about Arcane Mage in the first season, and we said like, listen, because Prideful will be gone, Arcane will be bye-bye.
Yeah, we actually touched upon this 9.1. And 915 of Arcane is still clearing very high keys. It's not as high as Affliction, and it kind of dipped a little bit in the terms of the rankings from our last year, but it's still clearing very high keys, and that's probably mostly because the meta is settling more and more around Frost Mage. I mean, it's not a surprise, and we'll talk about Frost Mage in a second.
To Frost Mage.
Arcane right now is kind of around C tier, and I think it's just mostly about the numbers. Obviously, it doesn't have the same toolkit as Frost does. It does bring the magey things, which, you know, works well, but most likely because a lot of people have been going away from Arcane and, you know, consequentially from Fire as well when they go to Frost.
Yeah.
These specs will probably not be as high as they could be, but they're still, you know, like 26s. They're pretty good.
Yeah, it's still a very pumpy spec, and I would add to that a very fun spec to play in DD. I would just add to this that when we're gonna compare it to, I would say more Frost. I would say more Frost than Fire. Frost will always have that added element of utility when it comes to, like, you know, these high keys, the constant slow. Even though you could make an argument that maybe Arcane's AoE burst could be faster, but also like the Frozen Orb from Frost Mage as well. It's definitely worth the place here. I remember 9.0 Arcane was like...
Arcane suffers a little bit from having to hardcast a lot of stuff, as opposed to mages, to Fire and Frost, which we'll get to in a second. I'll mention that as well. But yeah, the Arcane is currently C tier. It's not that bad. It's 26s, 25ish, kind of like that, kind of there.
If you play Arcane, you'll be fine. Trust me. All right. Beastmastery Hunter. One of the best, I would say, huh?
This was a surprise. Beastmastery is kind of very high up there. I think I was seeing top of the hill. Beastmasteries were doing 28s. It was pretty cool. I don't know if Beastmasters have done 29s at this point, but they're doing really high. They're doing better than Marksman by just a little bit, but it's clearly like the top hunters, like Beastmasters clearing like 1 or 2 better keys than Marksman overall. And I mean, it's really good.
I guess it's less punishing as well, right?
It's obviously less punishing, but I think it's mostly about the damage and the
damage profile. But there was a time in season 2 actually when Marksman was actually better than BM. In our first tier list, we had
fundamentally, Marksman has access to burst damage, which is really cool, while Beastmaster just has high consistent damage. So probably with like a lot of gear, with, you know, the Sylvanas bow and all of that,
scaling, you say?
It just evens out at the end, and it's like when you can always do just high damage, maybe that takes away some of the risk, and you can have other party members in your group that do, you know, that burst, that priority damage, that kill that dude. Plus, Beastmaster is really good in single target.
Yeah, it has all covers it. So where are we placing this?
Beastmaster is actually in B tier behind Affliction.
Behind Affliction?
Yeah.
What is this?
Affliction is a little bit better than BM.
All right, now my favorite spec of all time, Boomkins. Hello.
To nobody's surprise.
I'm surprised, man. I am surprised because I know how dominating Boomkin was. And it's still very good, don't get me wrong. It's still dominating.
Boomkin's strength is in single target.
Really now?
It's clearly
also AoE. Come on.
Well, it does have AoE, but the way that the kit functions,
the burst
is more about a single target, because obviously Revenant's friends as well. Most of the Boomkin's hard-hitting abilities are single target abilities. It just so happens that in AoE, when you can, you know, empower your Starfires, they just end up doing a ridiculous amount of damage because it just scales really well with your stats. And it's really good. That definitely has the Druid kit. It's still very high up there. Nothing much changed from Boomkin. It's still A tier. It's not quite as Frost because it's not because it couldn't do the keys that Frost does, most likely, but probably because I think the top teams are just running Frost Mage.
You can also make an argument to the access of AoE burst, having it much faster on Frost.
Well, I mean, you have Icy Veins that you can extend for like ridiculous
Icy Veins, yeah, but the main creme de la creme is like, you know, Frozen Orb with the Fingers of Frost procs all the time. You know,
you're a little bit more mobile because you have a lot of hard casts for Boomy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So maybe in high case this will be a little bit towards the, you know, tipping the edge towards Frost because of that fast access.
Yeah, but right now, I mean, we're talking about... Oh, God damn it, man. Don't
it's
ruin
stable,
the furniture.
man. It's stable.
We're talking about 28s and 29s for Boomy. So it's, I mean, come on, what are we talking about here?
All right. Let's check out Demonology Warlock.
Demonology Warlock is still doing really good. It's actually doing better than Arcane. It's in C tier as well.
Ooh.
Not much to say. It's very hard to pinpoint this because I have actually been watching Shelley stream Affliction and Demo as well. And I was seeing him rock as Demo. I don't know why Demo's lower than Affliction. Maybe it's just the damage that there, or maybe people are just playing Affliction more. Demonology is maybe kind of like a Beastmastery in the sense that you have access to high damage as well. Your Tyrant comes back really quick, and I mean it's all good. It's probably maybe harder to play because you just have to hard cast a lot more. It seems
a very, very daunting and complicated spec to pull off. This is what I'm saying. I mean, in terms of like skill cap, in comparison to Affliction and Demo, maybe this is the thing, right? If you master and pull it off correctly on both of them onto the max.
I think in the rotational sense, Demo is not that complicated. I think it's how you use your rotation while dodging all the shit. I think that's probably the harder part.
But what about the Destro lock, since we're at the topic?
I think last time we had Destro pretty low, and unfortunately it's still kind of there. Okay, listen, it's probably the Affliction is so much better and Demo is better syndrome, where not a lot of people are using Destro to push high keys. Maybe it's still possible for Destro to have the potential to clear high keys. Right now it's sitting at around 24, 25s. Which is, I mean,
come on.
It's 24, 25s. It's higher than 90% of the player base anyway, so that's still pretty good. It's in the D tier, and we're only putting it into D tier because there is a difference between Destro and the other specs when it comes to like what level of keys they can clear. Yeah. Obviously, we're talking about the apex here.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? If you see Destro lock right now in D tier, this just means that in terms of like all of the range specs at the highest keys, Destro has done maybe the lowest keys out, and we're talking 24. So again, for you and me, that's probably super high. Okay, just take it with a grain of salt. There's nothing to be said that the spec is trash or anything like that. Yeah. Now let's see Elemental Shaman.
Elemental Shaman, surprisingly really good. I mean, nothing much changed from last time as well with Elemental. It's still doing really good. It does a lot of damage. It has a lot of utility. Obviously, if you're not going to bring a mage, you might as well bring a Shaman. It has Bloodlust.
Or a Boomkin.
Shut up. It's funny enough that the top teams that are clearing keys with Elemental are also clearing the keys with the Boomkin in their team. So they kind of go hand in hand. So obviously, Elemental is also an A tier. I think it's just a little bit behind Boomy, but that's because maybe there's one or two groups that are clearing higher keys with just the Boomy and no Elemental, but that's about it. It's still we're still talking 28s, 29s. Elemental is doing really good as always. No,
I mean, see, this is the thing, right? Like the biggest kid in an Elemental push was at 28.
There might have been some 29s as well, I think.
Okay, well, see, this is what I was saying, right? Like, compared this to the biggest key at Destro lock pushed, like, within all of the data, right? 24, 25s. This is, like, how we differentiate them, okay? Just to put it out there.
Yeah.
And now to my favorite mage spec, started off with Fire Mage, which was dominating in previous seasons. And, you know, it wasn't, like, super surprising that some kings will fall because some princes get buffed, and this is the clear example. And I love both fire and frost, but in terms of like fire, I love like the blastiness and fast access, you know, to combustion and stuff. And I think our intro to our previous fire mage guide kind of pointed out, because after combustion, you're like, hello.
Well, we can talk about fire mage in the same concept that we talk about Boomy, where they're both really good at single target. And I think fire mage is still the better mage spec in the raids, obviously because of the single target priority damage. It's just that outside of that, it does not have that much AoE anymore, apparently, I would guess, but it's obviously competing with Frost. I mean, it's still good. It's uncapped flame strikes.
See, I think like the main difference here is Fire still has like a shit ton of like big AoE, like 5+ targets, but when it comes to cleave, it's good, but it cannot compare with Frost. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think this is like the biggest differentiator right now. I'm still kicking the fucking wall here. This is probably gonna get broken or something.
Yeah. But gonna have to move. That is what it is.
In terms of like ranking Fire,
it's a little bit behind Arcane, surprisingly. It's kind of doing the same level of keys as Arcane.
What a difference.
If I had to choose which one would be a little bit better, it's Arcane, which is like a little bit weird. That Fire is now the least performing spec, but we're still talking about like 26s, right?
Yeah, so I mean, come on. It's all fine. The rankings here again are purely based on the key levels these boys and gals have run. Okay, now for our first S tier spec, I'm guessing this is S tier, yes? Yes, Frost Mage?
Frost Mage. Well, yes. It's the
Come on, man, you had that look.
It's the only S tier spec because Frost Mage is just dominating the race spec. There's a clear difference between...
it's such a cool spec.
If you look, it's... if you really look at like the top keys,
you need to chill.
Oh, right. You have a few more. I'm just gonna roll with it. I think
freeze, motherfucker. I'm sorry. Okay,
right. I was looking at the top frost mage in the world has cleared a plus 31.
Hey man, have you ever listened to Ice Cube? Okay, good. I'll stop it. That's it.
You're gonna mention iced tea as well.
Iced tea as well.
Vanilla ice.
I'm stopping. Okay. It's done. I'm shutting up.
It's really good with the new buffs and everything. I feel like one of the strongest points that Frost Mage has, obviously, it's in its damage. I think it's the seasonal affects, from what I understand, with getting the Champion's Brand, that you get all that crit, and you can just keep
so
Icy
huge.
Veins for like a ridiculous amount of time.
Oh yeah. I was surprised when I was playing my Frost Mage. Like I was still researching it, and I kind of like was surprised like how much Icy Veins lasts. It's like what the fuck? I'm still having Icy Veins, but the arguments we made before still stand, right? Apart from like super good AOE damage and having access to AOE burst really fast, I think with most of them play with Glacial Fragments or Frigid Winds. I
think it's Frigid Winds in
some play with Glacial Fragments. I remember talking with some theory crafters in Alter Time.
I'm thinking of Splitting Ice. No.
Yeah, so it's the AOE is really good. The single target, I mean, they got buffed in single target. I don't know if you remember in 915, and it's definitely much more, I would say, felt than previously because
I think single target was a big problem for Frost Mage.
It was.
At least big problem when it comes to the balance at the top.
Yeah.
Because in raids it wasn't doing that hot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So AOE damage, super good. Cleave damage, super good. And now single target, good. Not like comparing to, I don't know, a Boomkin burst on single target or whatever, but still they're competing.
Or like Subrog, I would imagine.
Or Subrog, yeah. With all this package combined, I can definitely see why Frost Mage is kind of dominating. Plus, you got all of the former Fire Mages that switched to Frost just to be able to push more and stuff like that. So there's this issue of representation as well. But well worth it. And
it's S tier. It's the clear king. It's much respect. It's a league above everybody else. And
was time. Was about time.
Was about time. Like Frost Mage has been a meme in BFA, kind of like Arcane. So
okay. Let's talk about Marksmanship Hunter here.
Marksmanship Hunter. We did mention that it's like a little bit of a dip. It's still up there. It's like right behind BM in B tier.
Right.
It's doing better keys than the Arcane, Fire, and Demo. I think it's around like 27s, maybe a 28 here and there. I think.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me. It still has the burst with the volley, which is really good. Was one of the best additions. And dear Lord, when 9.2 comes out, I have to mention this because the Marksman tier set is crazy, and I think it's just going to melt in dungeons.
The bonus, well, don't get too happy because those are likely to change.
Yeah, I know.
Always
but
happens.
it's nice to be excited. It's nice to be hyped because I'm playing Hunter, so
don't
really
get
excited.
disappointed later.
Yeah.
Okay, so B tier, I would say
it's at the end of the B tier right now.
All right, so definitely we can see that BM is doing better. We can talk about the fact that Marksman has been one of the top DPS specs like since Shadowlands started, but it slowly kind of got behind a couple of other specs. You can talk about gear scaling. You can talk about different items. You mentioned
when it comes to progress, when it comes to you getting into the Hunter spec with like you don't have a lot, probably Marksman is going to be the best spec for you. It does really well with like almost no gear. It scales really well with just
really
basic kit. So that's always going to be a good thing.
Okay, and last but not least, one of our favorite spec of all time, Shadow Priest.
Shadow Priest.
How we doing,
I think
baby?
this is also it's also a very hard class to rank. Shadow Priest is still in B tier. It's like right in between Affliction and BM.
Oh, better than both Hunter specs.
The thing with Shadow is like there are a couple of things that could be propelling it really high. Is that no other real Priest spec is good in high keys. I mean, Holy and Disc obviously are good healers, but most of the keys are not done with Holy or Discipline Priest. So Shadow Priest would be your main access to Priest utility. Vampiric Embrace is amazing. Let's just talk about that. I'm a shit Shadow Priest, but when I pop Vampiric Embrace and have cooldowns,
the day's saved.
it's like I'm doing almost as much as my healer for that amount of time. So that's actually pretty cool.
It is.
You do have Power Infusion, which most of the time you're going to be using it for yourself. I don't know if there's a situation where you would use it for anybody else because I know there was a spreadsheet in 9.0. I don't know how well it translates in 9.1, but how much damage every spec gets from Power Infusion, Shadow Priest was getting the most. out of all of the specs.
Well, there you go. We can add on top of that. It's kind of like in that category of specs where it's not, you know, the easiest to pull off and have really great numbers. I mean, it's a managey spec, right? I would say probably a tad more complicated than Affliction is. And you can see Affliction being in front of it.
Sometimes it also feels a little bit more mechanically challenging, at least depending on what Covenant and Legendary you're playing with.
Yeah, it all depends. So this is the thing, at some point when you really want to push these high keys, you are looking at not necessarily easier specs, but a little bit more fluid specs. And Shadow Priest, not saying that it's not fluid, but it's definitely...
So 26, 27s, I mean, yeah, I've seen Shadow Priest pump, man. It was ridiculous.
Definitely pumps, but like comparing it to like an S tier Frost Mage.
Yeah,
Frost Mage doesn't have near the intricacies, and it's much more fluid, plus it has access to a wee burst, once again, much faster. But then again, being in B tier is like, well, it's perfect. Any of these specs you're looking at right now are clearing at least 24s and up consistently. Yeah. So this goes to show, in terms of like balancing, we're pretty good. This is the final picture. We have Frost in A tier, then in S tier. I said S tier.
We're probably gonna be moving with this type of ranking into 9.2. I would be surprised if anything else changed. Everybody pretty much has the gear now.
I'm expecting 9.2 to
well, 9.2, yes, but until then, it's unlikely that things like these will change. So this might be one of the last M+ ranged series that we're gonna make, unless something drastically changes, unless we have a patch with like some buffs or nerfs or something like that. But you're looking at a pretty good lineup. I mean, we have Destrolock in D tier, starting with the 24s and 25s and going higher than that. Yeah. Then you have Demo, Arcane, and Fire with like 26s. Kind of like that's maybe the average at the very top. Then Affliction, Shadow, BM, and Marksman in B tier with like 27s, closing in on the 28s. 28s and 29s with Boomy and Elemental in A tier, and 29s and, you know, soon 30s and 31s with Frost Mage, I would expect.
A beautiful picture, a beautiful picture. And you know what else is beautiful? Our Patreons, baby, who keep on supporting and keep on pumping all of this content that we do. You know, we're grateful and humble that you stuck around during these complicated times. You know, being a WoW player, being a WoW content creator, not the easiest, not the... I would say it wouldn't bring the most ever joy that has ever brought, but we have awesome folks like you who keep the flag up for all of this stuff.
You actually matter a lot.
Yeah, you matter, and thank you once again for all your support. Then, if you wanted to join the team in that way, check the tiers on
link is down below.
Link is in the description. Yeah, click it, see if there's something you like, and we will carry on doing all of this content that we do thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
see you in the next one.
The video. Have a great weekend.
Happy New Year.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.